Most people fear coming home to an empty house. I came home early, and I wish to God it had been empty. Welcome back to 7 Seconds True Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Let me tell you something about marriage. After 23 years of sharing a bed, a bank account, and a bathroom with someone, and trust me, the bathroom part is the real test of love. You develop a sixth sense about them. You know when something is off. You feel it before you see it, like a smell in the air that doesn't belong. That Tuesday, I felt it the moment I turned into our street. I wasn't supposed to be home. My conference in Chicago had wrapped up a full day early. Something about the keynote speaker having a personal emergency. Personally, I think she just looked at the audience and lost the will to live. Either way, I was on the first flight back. No calls made, no text sent. I figured I'd surprise Daniel. Maybe pick up his favorite biryani on the way. Maybe actually sit across from my husband at dinner for once without a laptop between us. I was feeling good. I should have known better. The first thing I noticed was Nathan's car in the driveway. Now Nathan is our son. He is 26 years old, married to Sophia for 2 years. They have their own apartment across town, a very nice apartment, I might add, that we helped furnish. So seeing his car at my house on a Tuesday afternoon wasn't just unusual. It was strange. Nathan doesn't do pop-ins. Nathan barely does scheduled visits. I sat in my car for a second and said out loud to nobody, "Elena, why is your son's car in your driveway on a Tuesday?" I had no answer for myself. So I grabbed my carry-on and walked to the front door. The second thing I noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the everyone is relaxing kind. The thick, heavy, wrong kind of silence. The kind that has weight to it. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Nathan and Sophia were sitting in the living room together on the couch. And here's the part that still makes my skin crawl when I think about it. They weren't watching TV. They weren't on their phones. They were just sitting like two people in a waiting room who had already accepted whatever news was coming. Nathan looked up first. And I want you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because this is the detail that changed everything for me. He wasn't surprised to see me. Think about that. Your mother, who is supposed to be in Chicago, walks through the front door a full day early, and you don't even flinch. No wide eyes. No, Mom. What are you doing here? Nothing. Just a slow blink, and a look I can only describe as calculated. Sophia smiled. And I'm telling you, that smile had no business being on anyone's face that afternoon. I said, "Nathan, what's going on? Where's your father?" He cleared his throat. "Mom, hey, we were actually just about to call you." "Were you?" I said it flat. Not a question. Dad had an episode this morning. He's at Mercy General, but he's stable. I didn't hear anything after Mercy General. I was back in my car in 11 seconds. I know because I counted. Something about shock does that to you, makes your brain latch onto the most useless details while the important ones try to kill you. I called my best friend Amara on the way. Amara Khan has been my closest friend since 1998. That woman has seen me through a career crisis, 2 house renovations, and the absolute catastrophe that was my attempt at a capsule wardrobe in 2011. If there is anyone on this earth who will tell me the truth without wrapping it in bubble wrap first, it's Amara. She picked up on the second ring. "Elena, what's up?" "Daniel's in the hospital. Mercy General." I just got home and Nathan and Sophia were sitting in my living room like two people who already knew the ending of a movie. Dead silence on her end. "What do you mean, like they already knew?" "Amara, my son didn't even react when I walked through the door. I was supposed to be in Chicago." Another pause. Then, very quietly, "Elena, I need you to stay calm." "I am calm."
"No," she said.
"You're driving. That's not the same thing." She wasn't wrong. Mercy General was 15 minutes from my house. I made it in 9. I will not be taking questions about that. Dr. Marcus Reed met me at the nurse's station. He was a composed man, early 60s, the kind of doctor who delivers hard news with steady eyes and a voice that doesn't wobble. I appreciated that. I needed steady right then. "Mrs. Elena," he said, "I'm glad you're here. Your husband was brought in this morning by your son. He presented with severe disorientation, organ stress, and elevated toxicity markers in his blood work. Toxicity markers?
Yes.
We're running a full panel, but I want to be straightforward with you. The pattern we're seeing isn't consistent with a sudden illness. It suggests something that has been building. Building. That word hit me like a closed fist. I gripped the edge of the nurse's station and said, very carefully, Dr. Reed, are you telling me that something is being done to my husband? He held my gaze and said, I'm telling you that we need more answers, and I think you do, too. I went in to see Daniel. Listen, I have seen my husband in every state imaginable. I've seen him laugh so hard he cried. I've seen him furious enough to make me genuinely reconsider my life choices. I've seen him exhausted, proud, heartbroken, and everything in between. I was not prepared for what I saw in that room. He looked hollowed out, like someone had turned a dial inside him and slowly, quietly drained everything that made him Daniel. The machines beeped, the floor dripped, and my husband, the man who once argued with a contractor for 45 minutes over the angle of a ceiling fan, lay there looking impossibly small. I sat beside him and took his hand, and I made him a promise. I don't make promises lightly, ask anyone who knows me. I told him, I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I know exactly what happened to you. Then I walked back out to the waiting area. Nathan and Sophia had arrived. Of course they had. Nathan stood up immediately. Mom, we should talk. There's a lot you don't. I held up one hand. Just one. And something in my face must have communicated exactly where we stood because he stopped mid-sentence. Not yet, I said. Then I walked to the corner of that waiting room, pulled out my phone, and started doing the one thing they never saw coming. I started locking every single account they had access to.
Every
single
one.
And when the notifications started hitting their phones, because I knew they would, I watched Sophia's face first. That smile she'd been carrying all afternoon, it evaporated. Just like that. Now, we were having a conversation. That night, sitting in the hospital parking lot at 9:43 p.m. with my husband hooked up to machines 30 feet above me, I called Amara. She picked up before the first ring even finished. Talk to me, she said. He looks terrible, Amara. And my voice did something embarrassing on that last word that I will not be elaborating on. The doctor used the word toxicity. Said it's been building, not a sudden thing. Something gradual. I heard her exhale slowly. Elena, gradual means deliberate.
I know what it means, I said.
And Nathan and Sophia were in the house? Silence. Then Amara said something I will never forget as long as I live. She said, you need to think very carefully about who had access to Daniel's food, his drinks, his medication, every day over the last few months. Think about who was around. And that's when it hit me. For months ago, Daniel had injured his back coming down the stairs. Nothing surgical, but painful enough to slow him down. Nathan had swooped in almost immediately and suggested that Sophia, who worked part-time and had a flexible schedule, could come by the house every morning to help Daniel with breakfast and his medications while I was at work. At the time, I thought it was generous. I actually told Amara, maybe I misjudged that boy. I want to go back in time and shake myself. I went back inside. Nathan was standing by the vending machine, arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man trying very hard to look innocent and failing at a graduate level. Sophia was seated, phone face down on her lap. Now, and I need you to understand the significance of this, Sophia is never without her phone. That woman is physically attached to that device. I once watched her scroll through it during a dinner prayer. So a face-down phone meant she was either expecting a call she didn't want me to see, or she'd already received one. I sat down directly across from them. Mom, I know how this looks, Nathan said. Do you, Nathan? I said. Walk me through exactly how you think this looks, because I am genuinely curious. He shifted in his seat. Dad has been having health issues for a while. We were trying to help. Sophia was coming by every morning, making sure he ate, took his vitamins. His vitamins, I repeated. Yes. Which vitamins? He blinked. What? Which vitamins, Nathan? He takes 3 different supplements. Which ones was Sophia giving him? He looked at Sophia. Sophia looked at her lap. That 3-second exchange told me everything I needed to know. I stood up and said, "I'm going to need both of you to go home." "Mom." I said his name once. Quietly. The way my own mother used to say mine when I was about to do something I could not take back. "Go home." I sat in that waiting room with terrible hospital coffee, and I did what any woman who suspects her son and daughter-in-law of poisoning her husband would do. I started digging. I pulled up every bank statement from the last 6 months. I am not a forensic accountant. I am a 54-year-old woman who still finds online transfers mildly stressful. But even I could see something was wrong. There were withdrawals. Small ones at first, 200 here, 350 there. The kind of amounts that don't scream at you. They whisper. But when I added them up, we were looking at close to $11,000 over 5 months. From a joint account that Daniel and I shared, and that Nathan had limited access to for emergencies. $11,000. I called Amara at 2 o'clock in the morning. She answered like it was noon. 11,000. I said, without even saying hello. From the household joint account. Small withdrawals. Consistent. Like someone who knew exactly how to stay under the radar. Amara was quiet for a moment. Then, "Elena, that's not impulsive. That's planned. That's someone who sat down and thought about how to do this without getting caught." "My son," I said. And I'll be honest with you, those 2 words nearly broke me right there in that waiting room at 2 o'clock in the morning. My son sat down and planned this. The next morning, Dr. Reed found me exactly where he'd left me. He sat down beside me, which doctors don't typically do, and I noticed. He said, "Mrs. Elena, the full panel came back." "Tell me straight," I said. "Your husband has elevated levels of a compound consistent with long-term ingestion of a specific heavy metal. The levels suggest consistent exposure over a period of months. His kidneys are under significant stress. We've started treatment, and I want to be clear, we caught this. He has a strong chance of recovery." I closed my eyes, just for a second. Then I said, "Dr. Reed, if someone were doing this deliberately, how would they administer it?" He paused. Then, very carefully, "It could be introduced through food, through drink, through supplements, particularly powder-based ones that dissolve easily and have no distinct taste." I heard Nathan's voice in my head. Sophia was coming by every morning, making sure he ate, took his vitamins. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. I called my attorney first, then I called the bank. By morning, my attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Sana Mirza, who had been practicing law for 28 years and genuinely enjoyed watching people face consequences, had something that made $11,000 look like pocket change. 6 weeks before Daniel ended up in that ICU, he had visited an estate attorney alone, without telling me. He had updated his life insurance policy. The original had Nathan listed as secondary beneficiary, something we'd set up years ago. Daniel had gone in to remove Nathan entirely and redirect everything to a charitable trust, a literacy foundation for underprivileged children that he had been quietly building for 2 years. He wanted to present it as a fully functioning thing before telling me. That was Daniel. Never half measures. The policy was worth $2.3 million. Nathan had found out. And instead of picking up the phone and having a conversation like a grown man, he and Sophia had decided that the most reasonable response was to make sure Daniel didn't live long enough to finalize the paperwork. The attorney had a 30-day processing window. Daniel had 30 days left when he collapsed. 30 days. My husband had 30 days left to live. In their plan. I sat with that information for a long time. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just let the full weight of it settle onto my chest like a stone. Then I stood up, straightened my jacket, and made a decision. I was not going to be loud about this. I was not going to be sloppy. I was not going to confront Nathan in a hospital hallway and give him the opportunity to lawyer up on my dime and turn this into a circus. I was going to be methodical. Sana filed everything. The pharmacy receipts. Nathan had purchased a specific supplement brand on 3 separate occasions. Always cash, always alone, except once when Sophia was caught on an exterior camera waiting in the car. The bank records. The estate attorney's timeline. and Nathan's phone call to the estate attorney's office, where he had posed as Daniel's personal assistant to ask about the status of the policy changes. He left his own cell phone number as a callback. I stared at the wall for a full 10 seconds when Amara told me that. Then I said, "Amara, did I raise a criminal mastermind or a complete idiot?" She said, "Somehow, Elena, the answer is both." They came to the hospital on day 5. Together. Carrying flowers. Nathan walked in first, saw me standing in the corridor, and immediately deployed a smile that did not reach his eyes by approximately 40 meters. "Mom, how is he?" "We've been so worried." I looked at him, then at Sophia, then back at him.
"He's awake.
He's talking. And he's going to make a full recovery." Something flickered behind Nathan's eyes. It wasn't relief. It wasn't joy. It was a very fast, very brief recalculation. The kind a person makes when a plan has failed and they need to figure out what comes next. "The police are on their way," I said.
Just like that.
Flat.
Come.
The same tone I might use to mention that it was supposed to rain on Friday. Nathan's face drained of color so fast it was almost medically impressive. "What?" "Sanaa filed everything this morning. The pharmacy receipts, the bank records, the phone call to the estate attorney, Dr. Reed's toxicology report, all of it. Every piece. In a very neat package." Sophia made a sound I can only describe as a person's composure physically leaving their body. Nathan said, "Mom, just listen for 1 second, okay? Just let me. Because I am, despite everything, his mother. There is nothing you can say to me right now. There is not a sentence in the English language that covers this. So, I need you to stop talking." He opened his mouth. I closed it with one look. "The flowers are nice, though. Daniel will appreciate them, from someone else." They were arrested in the hospital parking lot. Sanaa had timed it with the precision of a woman who understood that optics matter. They were still holding the flowers when the officers approached. Amara appeared beside me at the window. I don't even know when she arrived. She just materialized the way she always does when things matter most. We stood there together and watched. She said, "How do you feel?" I thought about it honestly. Like I aged 10 years in 5 days. Like I want to sleep for a month. Like I am simultaneously the saddest I have ever been and the most certain I have ever felt about anything in my life. She said, "And Daniel?" I looked back toward his room down the corridor. Through the small rectangular window in his door, I could see the shape of him in the bed, the monitors, the soft light. "Daniel is going to be fine," I said. "Daniel is always going to be fine. He's the most stubborn person I know, and he married me, which proves he can survive anything." Amara laughed. A real one. It bounced off the corridor walls, and for just a moment, the weight lifted. 3 months later, Daniel came home. He walked through the front door of our house on a Saturday morning in October when the light was doing that golden thing it does in fall. He stood in the hallway and looked around like he was cataloging everything he had almost lost. Then he turned to me and said, "Elena, the kitchen needs repainting." I said, "Absolutely not. I just painted it 2 years ago." He said, "It's the wrong shade of white." "There is only one shade of white, Daniel." "That," he said, pointing at the wall with the calm authority of a man who had stared down death in an ICU, "is not white. That is the color of a bureaucratic apology." I looked at the wall. I looked at him. I pulled out my phone and called a painter. Nathan and Sophia faced charges of attempted murder, conspiracy, and financial fraud. Sanaa prosecuted with the energy of someone who had been waiting her entire career for a case this clean. The trial lasted 11 days. The verdict took the jury 4 hours. They were sentenced significantly. I won't give you the number, because frankly, whatever number I say won't feel like enough. What I will tell you is this. When the verdict was read, I was sitting in that courtroom next to Daniel, who was holding my hand with a grip that could have bent steel. And when it was over, he leaned over to me and said very quietly, "I want biryani." I said, "Right now?" He said, "Elena, I have been thinking about biryani for 3 months. Do not test me." So we got biryani. Amara came. Sanaa came. Dr. Reed, whom Daniel had apparently charmed completely during his recovery, came too. We sat around a table, and we ate, and we laughed. And I watched my husband gesture wildly while telling a story, and I thought, there he is. There's Daniel. I said at the beginning of this story that I came home early, and I wish to God the house had been empty. I take that back. I am glad I came home. I am glad I walked through that door. I am glad I saw what I saw, and felt what I felt, and moved the way I moved. Because if I had landed one day later, if that conference had run its full schedule, if I had stayed in Chicago one more night, Daniel wouldn't have made it. And I would have spent the rest of my life not knowing why. So no, I don't wish the house had been empty. I wish my son had been the man I thought I raised. But you can't control what people choose to become in the dark. You can only control what you do when the lights come on. I came home. I turned the lights on. And I made sure that every single person in that house faced exactly what they had done. That's the job.
That's always been the job.
If this story moved you, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being a part of this family.